And joining us now with an update on what is going on with the border convoy over there, and in response to what has been death threats towards the border convoy group in the past 72 hours, is Eric Odom of Liberty News, and he joins us from the scene. I believe you are in Texas tonight. Is that right, Eric?
Hey, good evening. Good to be with you again. And yes, calling from McAllen, Texas, right down along the border.
Now, first of all, tell us what is going on. Yesterday, or actually, it was Monday. You reported through your Facebook page that you had received death threats from the group La Raza, which is known as a terrorist organization, and as some organizations here in the United States. You received death threats from the likes of La Raza. Your hotel had to be evacuated, and that you had to cancel 2 events. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that actually started when we left Arizona. We had a great, uneventful set. I mean, there was no threats against us in Arizona. It was very safe and peaceful. We protested at John McCain's office, and then went on to an ICE and Border Patrol facility outside of Phoenix, before ending in Oracle, Arizona, where they've also been stopping buses to kind of show. We took a convoy through there and showed support for the community. And that was all peaceful. But on our way through New Mexico, actually that night, and then the next day when we left to go through New Mexico towards El Paso, we were being sent screenshots of some of these groups calling for their people to show up with not firearms, but certainly other items that could be used to cause harm against people in our convoy. And, our convoy has like soccer moms and, we're just family members, just good old-fashioned folks carrying flags. They don't need to be thrust into that kind of environment. So as a result of that, we canceled our El Paso stops, which turned out to be a very good thing, because I don't know if you saw or not, but we did have to file charges as there was someone in El Paso that attempted to run us off the highway. And what actually happened is we shut down I-10 going through El Paso for 45 minutes as a swarm of police officers were involved and descended upon our convoy. And we believe it was a setup. We believe that it was some sort of La Raza type, MS-13 or cartel type individuals, because of the clothing they were wearing. That were waiting under overpasses and were calling others as soon as they spot us. And they also called Univision or Universion or whatever the name of that is,
Univision.
Somehow
right the first time.
to somehow magically be on scene within 45 seconds of them shutting down the highway with us stuck in the middle of traffic. And also there were protesters carrying signs along the side of the interstate within 45 seconds of us pulling over and stopping traffic. So it was a complete setup. They tried to run the vehicle that I was in off the road, and then tried to run an RV and then one other vehicle in our convoy off the road. They claimed that there was a firearm.
Eric, is anyone hurt?
No, everyone was safe, and they called 911, the drivers that tried to stop us. Of course, we were all on the phone with 911 as well, and they claimed that that someone had pointed a rifle at them, which was absolutely absurd. There was no proof of that. The entire thing was caught on video, and that was the most damning evidence against them. And then, of course, we filed charges against them for I think that the investigation with the police department is leading to false report and reckless endangerment with a vehicle or something along those lines. So in El Paso, things really kind of turned for the worse, and we believe what happened is that we were probably followed by cartel members from El Paso to Van Horn, Texas. And because of what had happened in El Paso, some of the members some of the people that had come along in the convoy had called up some friends who were with a very professional outfit called Operation Secure Our Borders, which is a militia type. It's a group of ex-military, and they are. I mean, words can't describe how professional this group was and is, and they've pretty much held us and kind of watched over us ever since. But they showed up at about 3:30 a.m. and assessed the environment, and by about 4:20 to 4:30 a.m. at the hotel, which was a Quality Inn in Van Horn, made a determination that there were spotters for cartels parked in multiple areas watching the hotel that we were sleeping in. And once they made that determination, They got the room numbers of all members of our convoy, banged on all of the doors, and it was a terrifying situation to wake up to these militia guys who were, armed to the teeth and had bandanas over their face, and it really was, in their view, a military type operation to evacuate us out of this hotel. We were escorted very quickly.
How'd the hotel staff take it?
The hotel staff was pretty much non-existent. It was a little Quality Inn, with a ring doorbell to get into the front. I'm guessing the hotel staff was probably asleep. I have no, it all just happened so fast. And literally there's nothing at that exit other than some sort of a gas station, a McDonald's that was closed. I think both the gas station and the McDonald's were closed, and that Quality Inn hotel. So there's just, it's not like there's going to be any kind of big presence of just day-to-day business activity at that time of night. So they very quickly escorted us out of Culberson County, and we were on the phone with 911 as we were being escorted along the interstate. These guys were in the back of pickups and in front of us and behind us, and we're just very professional about it. They got us off of the interstate in Reeves County, where we then met up with quite a sizable group of state troopers and I believe one sheriff's deputy from Reeves County, where we all had discussions. We talked back and forth. One of the officers there agreed that they thought there probably were cartel members around the hotel. And then the law enforcement took over and escorted us out beyond Reeves County. And then we drove all the way to San Antonio. We got off of our route and drove to San Antonio to kind of restructure, make sure that we were a little bit more secured, and then refocus to make sure that this wasn't, we had no intention to go along to Del Rio and Laredo if all it was us running from people, and hiding our vehicles and being scared the whole time, so. But the truth is, and I remember talking to you, I think it was a week or two ago, that a big part of the mission of the border convoy is to go down and prove how dangerous this area is. And when you see news of what's happening in Gaza Strip and in some of those parts of the world, you realize we have a strip of our own that is just as violent. And the drug cartels, they dominate these areas. They've got law enforcement on their payroll. They watch everything that's happening, and anybody who comes in and says that things need to be done differently and that they need to be shut down becomes an enemy of their operation. So it literally could be peaceful.
Now, is it your opinion, Eric, that we've heard the horror stories at the Texas-Mexico border? Is it your opinion that not only the Texas border is being invaded, that all our borders within the other states, including New Mexico, Arizona, and California, are also in this same situation?
Oh, absolutely. And we talked to a gentleman who was a part of a volunteer border security force out in Arizona, and he tells us the same kind of stories. There's parts of Arizona where they've gone down and watched just hundreds of people cross, some of them carrying heavy arms, trafficking people across that border. The difference for us was that when we went through Arizona, we were quite a distance from the border. When you cross into El Paso, you see Juarez, so it's right there on the south side of the interstate, just across the canal there. So that's the big difference, is that, it's not as, the violence and the threat is not as prominent in states like Arizona, just because the bulk of people live up off the border. But once you get into Texas and you get into, Laredo, Del Rio, McAllen, where we are right now, we're right up against the border here. And then Arizona and California, Del Rio, Laredo, McAllen, Fort Hancock, El Paso, they are all right up against very, very dangerous parts of Mexico, and they're completely unsecured. We saw, just going down towards Fort Hancock, you could see just miles and miles of border area that there's no cameras, there's no border patrol, there's no fence. There's literally no security. In the middle of the night, you have no idea who's coming across that border and what their intentions are and what diseases they're bringing. It's just incredible.
Now, we've mentioned on this program as recent as last week that there was a possibility people with the Ebola virus, which is in Africa, was a main part of the president's speech news conference a few hours ago. He was asked about. Have you seen or have you heard any reports of any people crossing the border with the Ebola virus?
Not Ebola. I haven't heard that. I did talk to a source of mine in DHS earlier today and was told that there's a facility here in McAllen that literally the entire facility has come down with chickenpox. And that's kind of scary. So we just got here on the ground and we're starting to talk to our sources and meet with people to figure out who's where and what's going on. And I'm certainly going to dig and ask some of those questions. But I would imagine that there's a lot of things happening that we're not being told, because I'm guessing that if, the government knows full well that if suddenly one of these facilities has a case as significant as that, then there's going to be quarantine activity and they're not going to have a media event to announce it. So just as the government is not telling us quite how bad all of this is and how bad some of these people are coming across the border are, I don't think they're going to tell us how bad the disease threat is either. So that's why it's important for groups like ours to be down here seeing it firsthand and investigating and discovering what exactly is going on, because I think the majority of America we're just not being told what's really happening down here. Fortunately, there's alternative media and talk radio, but that's, as you know, it's an uphill battle when you've got hundreds of millions of people that need to realize that we are literally in real time at war at our borders, and most of the country doesn't realize it.
Absolutely right. Right on that, we are being invaded. I'll go as far as to put that forth, that we are being invaded by the likes of MS-13 and the Mexican drug cartels, and Governor Perry of Texas seems to be the only one who seems to be doing something about it. Have you gotten a response to what has happened to you from Governor Perry's office, and are they going to be filing an investigation into this as the police are?
We have not. There's a rally planned. There's two rallies planned tomorrow. One is at the Mexican consulate up in San Antonio, where we'll be calling for Mexico to end its human rights violations and stop the human trafficking happening on their side of the border. The second will be at Governor Rick Perry's office up in Austin, where some of that will be brought up, as well as a demand for him to really take this seriously, not photo op stuff for the 1,000 National Guard, but I mean really get 10,000 or more troops down there, get cameras up, get drones up in the air, do whatever is necessary to stop this, because the people that we've talked to in Texas are in full freak out mode over what's coming over their borders. And what most people don't realize is that there is so much cartel control over cities like San Antonio and other cities across Texas that a flip of a switch could activate a network of people so violent and horrendous and horrifying that it's to the level of something we've never seen straight out of a movie. That literally the state of Texas could be an instantaneous war against an enemy that dismembers the people that it opposes and leaves their heads in the middle of the streets. And those types of people are in every one of Texas' cities. They are flooding in on a daily basis, unchecked at our borders. And this is incredibly dangerous, and there's just not really anything that's being done to stop it. And that would kind of pivot into the second part of our convoy is, certainly calling on people to take action. And I tell your listeners, this is session right now, and Congress, the members are home, and they're ready to go into campaign mode because they have elections coming up in a couple months. So find out where their events are, get to their town hall events, get to their campaign events, and do not let them off the hook. If they get involved with legislation that doesn't secure the border, then they should be voted out immediately, because that is a violation of their oath to protect our borders from foreign invasion, and that should be the number one priority.